Welcome, listeners, to the Indie Marketers. I'm your host, Charmin Kent, brand and content strategist for Right Hand. And today we are devoting an episode to learning more about the founders of this very organization. That's right, we're Indie Marketers talking about indie marketers today. We would love to welcome our founders. We're talking to Jenna Kinley, Holly Enneking, and Bree Jones. Welcome, folks.
Hi.
Excited to be
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you so much. All right, let's start by you telling us about yourselves. What are your current roles and what are your areas of expertise?
Sure, I can go first. I'm Jenna Kinley. My current role is I'm doing consulting work. I'm a solution director for a company called New Era Technology. I do kind of a mixed bag of consulting, and sometimes it's your generalized marketing strategy. I've been leaning really hard into the MarTech space, so I do a lot of that. I'm passionate about furthering personalization in meaningful ways, so I like to work with my clients on that. On the side, I, as you mentioned, am a co-founder of this lovely organization, Indie Marketers.
Thank you. Bree, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so like Charmin said, I'm Bree Jones. I'm the VP of Marketing at a company called Stitch, which is a marketing technology consultancy focused on the Braze platform, which is a big customer engagement platform for B2C brands. And then, yes, outside of work, I'm co-founder of Indie Marketers. And in terms of my areas of expertise, I would say I'm first and foremost a brand marketer. I got my start as a designer. That's what I studied in college. And then I'd say that's just like my sweet spot and what I really invest a lot of time and energy in. But I've also picked up a lot of generalist skills along the way. So a little bit of digital, a little bit of content, a little bit of events. I can do a little bit of everything.
We love a multi-talented queen. Holly.
Yeah, happy to. I'm Holly Enneking. I am the head of marketing and partnerships at a company called Bolster. We are a tech-enabled executive search firm that helps companies connect with executive talent for full-time, on-demand, and board roles. And in my role, I am overseeing all of our marketing and partnership activity, especially with our venture capital partners that we work with to help their portfolio companies. And I'm also a member of our executive team, which gives me a great opportunity to be really high level strategic and thinking about all parts of the business. But then I get to be super hands on and really involved in all of our marketing and partnership activities because we're a small startup and there's a lot of work to be done. As far as my areas of expertise, I would really echo Bree. I would say that brand is my sweet spot. I love design. I love messaging, positioning, all of that stuff is where I have a lot of fun. And also on the demand generation side, especially when we can be thinking about digital marketing and the intersection of all of the activity that we're doing across paid advertising, across events, across content, bringing all those things together, I think is where marketing gets really fun and where I enjoy spending my time.
Such a diverse trio of folks. How did the three of you come together to create Indie Marketers? How was Indie Marketers founded? And what are your goals for this organization?
I can kind of jump in and talk about the founding. So I met Jenna probably 7 years ago now, Jenna, would you say, through a group called Women in Digital. And we were both on the board of that group and obviously, made great relationships with each other. And then I think that group sort of disbanded early on in COVID, just obviously the virtual programming, no one really knew what was going on. And then Jenna and I just continuously would talk about it'd be so great if we had another group like Women in Digital, but maybe that was a lower cost, lower barrier to entry, and brought in more diverse people from across different marketing functions, obviously brought in men as well. And then actually, funny enough, Holly and I were on the same team at Lev. That's where we all worked prior, and we were trying to, I think, add someone else to our team. And I was like, man, I feel like at this point, everyone I know works at Lev. I wish we could find a way to meet people. And Holly was like, why don't we create it? And so I'm like, that's funny because Jenna and I talk about this all the time. So I kind of got us all three together, and that was sort of the impetus for starting Indie Marketers.
A star was born. Yeah, I think it's that obviously COVID was hard for everyone. And really the crux of it was this desperate need to start connecting with people again once it was finally safe to do so. And, I think it's worth mentioning when we planned our first event, we sort of knew what we were doing, but we sort of did not. And so we were like, let's just wing it. What's the worst that could happen? We were blown away by how many people came to that first event. We had close to 100 people. And we realized, hey, we're not the only ones who feel this way. There are a lot of other people out there desperately seeking this connection. So.
Yeah, and I would say as far as goals, when we're thinking about indie marketers, we talked about a couple of things. One, Bree touched on a little bit, was around this inclusivity of creating a group that could be really open to anyone. So not narrowing ourselves by thinking about specific roles within marketing or specific industries or even, women only. Like, we wanted to create an opportunity that invited as many marketers in Indianapolis as possible into the group. And I think too, creating something that felt really accessible from just a time commitment for people, like, having an event every month maybe felt like, maybe people post COVID weren't really ready for that. But, having a couple of opportunities across the year to get people together and then creating some other spaces for people to connect in between those events felt like a way to bring people together in a way that made sense in sort of our post-COVID world and gave people the chance to connect and get together in person, but not require that, you're trying to squeeze it into your schedule, every month, and maybe you can make this one and maybe you can't. And how do we, find other ways to get people connected in Slack or on social media and other ways as well. So that was really a lot of what we were thinking about as we tried to bring this together.
Right. And our events have been really well attended. We've had some really great and interesting guests and subjects when it comes to our events. And we just celebrated our 2nd anniversary as an organization. What's changed in marketing since this group's founding? 2 years doesn't sound like a lot, but it can be. So tell me what's changed.
Well, especially in marketing. Marketing is always changing so quickly that sometimes it can feel a little hard to keep up with all of the things that are changing at any given time. I think there's a couple things that really stand out for me. One is obviously just like having in-person events again. That has really picked up steam in the last couple of years, moving out of this like virtual events or like, are we ready to get in person? Are we not ready to get in person? And I think we're all seeing across our, the companies that we work for and that the companies that are, with marketers in Indianapolis, that they're sort of going back to those in-person events and how they maybe feel and look different as we navigate people's appetite to be in person, but still be safe and conscious and all of those things. So I think that's a big takeaway for us. I think another place where we've seen a ton of change in marketing, and we actually did an event on this recently, is the rise of AI and what that means for marketers and how we find ways to balance this new technology and think about it as not something that's taking away jobs, but potentially enhancing jobs for everyone, and making it easier to think creatively and spend time on the work that we want to be spending time on, and taking away some of the work that maybe we don't want to be spending as much time on, and using it in a smart way. And also being able to communicate other parts of a business, what AI can and can't do for marketing, and helping educate our non-marketers in a business of what that looks like. And then too, the digital landscape is always changing. We're continuing to see from a privacy policy perspective, the way that Google is making changes in how they're ranking pages and thinking about SEO. And, there's just constant change in how we as marketers are thinking about how we can show up and get access to the audience that we want to get access to in a way that, like I said, can be hard to keep up with at times, but with so many marketers working across so many diverse industries and types of businesses, it's a great opportunity to get ideas and get some learnings and what's worked and what hasn't worked as we continue to just try and navigate this constant roller coaster of marketing change that, we're on this ride and it's just going to keep continuing. So we got to hang on.
Right.
I'm going to jump in and do a shameless plug on behalf of Holly. Holly posts every Friday on LinkedIn, That's the Tea, which is like a little marketing digest. And I find it extremely helpful to just understand like the bigger picture of the marketing landscape. And A+ to Holly.
Thank you.
Love that. And what I love about being a part of Indie Marketers is just how many different aspects of marketing there are and how supportive our community has become. I'm interested in learning more about the best elements of building a marketing career here in Indy. This is where I've built my entire career throughout its different iterations. But for folks who are maybe just getting started in marketing or are looking to expand their marketing horizons, what's the best part of being a marketer here in Indy?
I have to say, this is so Midwestern, but it's the connection you have to people. I also, like you, Charmin, built my career entirely in Indianapolis because that's where I live. That being said, I've worked remotely for larger global companies, and I gotta be honest, it can be really lonely. I was actually working for one of those types of companies when we formed Indie Marketers, and it was so lovely to just be able to pick people's brains without feeling like you were inconveniencing them. I think people are genuinely happy to be helpful. And I'm not saying you don't get that in other cities, but again, it's like there's this Midwestern quality of we're all like happy to help because the community is, it's not tiny. It's pretty close knit. There's always someone you can call, and there have been plenty of times where I've texted like Bree or Holly and said, hey, do you guys know anyone who does XYZ? And someone always does. Same thing with the Indie Marketer Slack channel, which I highly recommend if you're not in it, go check it out because I don't think there's been a single person who's posted in there and asked a question who hasn't gotten a handful of responses and genuine offers for help. I think that's the best aspect of forming your marketing career here in Indianapolis, whether or not you work for an indie-based company or not. That's my 2 cents on that.
100% agreed. Like you, I built my marketing career here, but there's a reason I stay. It's because of the community that we've been able to build here. So aside from joining Indie Marketers, which we definitely hope you do, what else can marketers here in Indianapolis do to strengthen their communities?
Yeah, I can take this one. For me, I think, and actually this is part of the mission statement of Indie Marketers, which is we also want to shine a light on the fact that Indy is just a host to amazing marketing talent. And so I think one thing that you can do to just help strengthen the brand of Indy as a place where incredible professionals work is build your own personal brand, whether it's on LinkedIn, on Instagram, of just making sure that people know that you've built a really great career that you're proud of and that you love living here too. And then I think this is part of Indie Marketers and following up on what Jenna said, but meet people. There are so many incredible people in Indy who want to help, and just build your network, take advantage of the fact that we live in a city where people want to know each other, to help each other, and just be connected.
Wonderful. This is more local, kind of a hometown question. If you could lead the marketing team of one local brand, which brand would you choose?
I don't know if it counts as a brand, but I don't care. I would absolutely love to do marketing for the airport. I think that our airport is one of the most wonderful ones in the world, and I think it's voted #1 in the country quite frequently. The thing about airports is, having been a consultant for as long as I have, I've spent more time in airports than I have in my own home half the time, it feels like. And the airports are kind of a means to an end for many people. Obviously, the people at IND said, hey, you have to be here, but it doesn't have to be terrible. They do some really cool things with artwork. It's beautiful. It's so well maintained, and they're constantly bringing in new ways to just kind of enjoy the time that you have there. Sometimes your flight gets canceled or delayed. There's some cool places to check out and grab a drink or whatever. So yeah, that would be my absolute dream, because it's also kind of for people who aren't from here, that's come see us, start here.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a representation of that Midwest hospitality that we all know and love.
Totally.
Bree, what about you? Which brand would you want to take over?
So I would say this is not necessarily a brand, but if I could be a really niche influencer for something that is a part of Indy, it is the Near East Side. So I live in a neighborhood called Cottage Home, and that's surrounded by several other great neighborhoods, including Mass Ave, Chatham Arch, Holy Cross, Windsor Park, Woodruff Place. And I just am obsessed with where I live. I romanticize the heck out of it. I consider myself my own personal neighborhood photographer. If you have a flower bush in your front yard and you live on the Near East Side, I've got pictures of it on my phone. And so just I would love to continue to amplify all the incredible things that comes with living downtown, the walkability. I can walk to 14 different coffee shops, local coffee shops. One Starbucks is included in that count. From my front door, I walk to work every day. My office is in the Bottle Works district. I get I drive my daughter to daycare, but even I have walked to drop her off at daycare. And so I just love where I live. And I think not enough people realize just all the great things that are happening downtown.
That's a really great answer. There's no place like home.
Yep.
What about you, Holly?
So I'm going to take us out to the suburbs on this one. So I live in Plainfield, just west of downtown, and there are two local restaurants that I'm a huge fan of and want people to come out and see more of. So one of them is called the Pruitt. It opened in an old movie theater on the main street here in Plainfield, and it is a beautiful space, incredible menu, just like off the wall cocktails. Like the whole experience there is just a true delight. And I'm always so excited when I go there, and I just want more people to know about it because I think it's this great example of a great local restaurant that's opened in a cool space that like is really like local and authentic and a lot of fun. And so I'm a huge fan of theirs. The other one is also a restaurant, different vibes. It's called Brewlink. They also have a downtown Indy location as well, but started here in Plainfield. And in my time here in Plainfield, I've seen them grow from like a really tiny little shop where they had a couple of taps. It's a brewery. They've grown into like a full-fledged restaurant here in Plainfield and now a space downtown as well. And it's a brand that's just like really fun and bright and colorful, really quirky, lots of personality. I think they make some really interesting beers that aren't always my personal style, but I think it's a lot of fun, and they get really creative with it. Like I love a good punny name, and they do some really interesting combos and fun things that I think it would be like a lot of fun to sink your teeth into and spend some time with. I'm a huge fan of Brewlink and what they're doing.
That sounds fun, and I've never heard of Brewlink. I will have to visit.
Yeah, check it out.
One more question, ladies. What are you reading or listening to lately that's giving you motivation or inspiration?
I can take this one first. In addition to That's the Tea by Holly, I would say for me, like I'm a marketer for professional services, which is like a very niche industry, operates in a very different way than a lot of like the tech companies that we have here in Indy, or obviously like any sort of pharmaceuticals, healthcare. And so there is a podcast called Rattle and Pedal, which just is like, it's for professional services marketers. And I listen to them at least a couple times a week just to sort of be better at my job.
So I'd say that one thing that I've been reading lately that I have really enjoyed is there's a group called GTM Partners that put out a newsletter called GTM Monday that I really enjoy and have gotten a lot of value out of the last couple of weeks. I've only recently signed up for it. I was doing a little research to learn more about product marketing, an area that I don't have a ton of expertise in. And so I had reached out to my network on LinkedIn and asked for recommendations, and GTM Partners came up as one that I should check out. And so subscribe for the newsletter, and I feel like every week I get some sort of interesting nugget out of it that I've been able to apply to my work. It's nice because it's just sort of, every Monday I get the newsletter in my inbox. I get some great learnings. I can click through to more stuff if I want to. They have a great repository of past content that they've put out there. But it's definitely one that has been super actionable and goes to a level of depth that I find I can really put something into practice pretty quickly without having to, do even more research or be like, well, what? So it's definitely one that I would recommend if you're in like a real go-to-market position that could be really helpful to sign up for.
Love that. So that's a lot of work stuff. What about stuff that's not work?
Yeah, when I knew this question was coming, I really drew a blank because I'm, unlike Bree and Holly, the best way for me to kind of figure things out, because I mentioned I do consulting, so really I spend all my time trying to solve problems for other people that they probably could have solved for themselves, but I'm happy to help. So right now I'm really obsessed with true crime documentaries and podcasts. I am wrapping up a really challenging project that was really fulfilling. And for me, if I think too much about it, I've gone too far. So these distractions really help me think about something completely different. Because none of my clients are in the murder business, thankfully. Shameless plug for local podcast, Crime Junkie. I also listened to this one. It's not really murder, but it's called Noble Blood by a woman named Dana Schwartz, who does a really fantastic deep dive into different historical figures. And then there's some really weird TV shows I've been watching lately. But yeah, it's kind of go worry about someone else's problem for a hot second, and then somehow the idea comes back to me for my client. So I don't know if that works for anyone else, but solidarity.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for joining us and sharing your stories. And thank you for founding Indy Marketers. This has been an incredible experience.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Sherman.
Thanks.